Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to my first video, my first Mystery Monday of 2022. And hopefully this one is actually going up on a Monday. Honestly, 2022 resolutions is to start uploading Mystery Mondays on Mondays again. Wishful thinking? I hope not. Also, is it just me or does it always feel so weird swapping over to a new year? Like 2022. 2022. So whack. We are in 2022 now. It always takes my mind like a minute to adjust to the fact that we're like in a new year and we've got to call it something else. Like 2022, what the heck? I saw a video that like actually started giving me an existential crisis. It was like about people who had a baby in 2021, and I'm not even like having a baby anytime soon, but it started talking about like what year they're gonna start going to school in and what year they're gonna finish school and all of that kind of stuff, and I was like, what the heck? Like seeing the numbers like 20, 40, whatever, I was like, I'm not ready for that. I like actually started having a bit of a meltdown. Anyway, in today's video, we are gonna be talking about a case that for the life of me, I cannot decide what I even think happened. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys think, because this case has me stumped. I truly, like, normally when I look into a case, I'm always like, yep, this is what I think happened. But this case, I have no idea, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys think. Before we get into it, I just want to thank today's sponsor, Blueland, for making this video possible. So what's really cool about Blueland is that unlike traditional liquid cleaners and hand soaps that come in single-use plastics, Blueland just provides you with these tiny little 20-cent piece sized tablets that you just pop in some water and you're good to go. Their products are vegan and cruelty-free. They're made without ammonia, without VOC, without soy and nut, without chlorine bleach, without parabens, so they're all really good stuff as well. And they are also EPA certified, which means that scientists have gone through and evaluated all the ingredients in their products to make sure that they meet the safe choice stringent criteria. So it's all really good for you and really good for the environment as well. They are also so incredibly easy to use, you guys. All you have to do is grab your bottle, fill it with warm to hot water, and then you put in one of your tablets into the bottle, and that's it. You can use it in a few minutes. You don't need to stir it or shake it or anything. It's done. And not to mention, their hand soap bottles are so cute. They're really nice and minimalist, so they look so nice on the counter. I love them. So I have the hand soap duo, and if you buy a kit instead of an individual item, you get 20% off. And then on top of that, you can also get an extra 20% off if you click the link in my bio. So they're currently shipping to the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. So make sure you guys check that out, save some money, and get one of these really cute hand soaps or cleaning products. They have cleaning products as well that are amazing. They look good, they smell amazing, and they're better for the environment too, and every step towards sustainability, even if it's just a small one, is a step in the right direction. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into today's case, shall we? So in 2019, Elizabeth Barraza was 29 years old, and she was living in Toombul, Texas, which is in Houston, and she was living there with her husband Sergio. They had gotten married about 4 years earlier in 2015, and 2 years after they got married, so in 2017, they bought a house together in the 8,600 block of Cedar Walk Drive, which is in the Princeton Place neighborhood, which was apparently like a really quiet street. Nobody really drove through that street. It was quiet and calm, and apparently just like a really relaxing place to live. And they also got a dog together. They got a little sausage dog. He was just the cutest little thing ever, and they just adored him. They would pose him for little photos to post online. It was so cute. And by all accounts, they were very happily married. They rarely complained about each other or any issues they were having. They always spoke really highly of each other to, you know, friends and family and co-workers. They were best friends. They loved being married to each other, and they just had a really good, positive relationship. Sergio described his relationship to Elizabeth as being very happy. They rarely fought. They were best friends, and they both had the same passions and obsessions. So they were both really into Star Wars and Harry Potter, and they would always dress up in cosplay and go to Comic-Con and stuff like that. And that's actually how Elizabeth and Sergio first met, at one of these conventions. They had both become members of the local 501st Legion, which is basically like a group of Star Wars fans that dress up as different characters, usually stormtroopers. And Elizabeth was described by friends and family as being very kind. She was a really caring person, always wanted to make others happy. She loved making people smile and making people laugh. And sometimes members of the 501st Legion would be sent out to children's hospitals. Like, part of their mission was to make people smile and cheer them up. So they'd be sent out to children's hospitals to surprise the kids. And through this, Elizabeth had gotten involved with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is really, really nice. Elizabeth and Sergio's 5-year anniversary was also coming up really soon, which they were really excited about. And they were planning on going to Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, where they could go and explore and see like Harry Potter World and that sort of thing and all of the theme parks. So they were just really excited about that. Elizabeth did also have a day job. She worked as a data reporter for a pipeline inspection group called the Rosen Group. And Sergio also worked installing people's floors, mostly carpet and that sort of thing. So on the morning of the 25th of January in 2019, Sergio left for work at 6:48 a.m. and Elizabeth called in sick to work that day because she was setting up for a garage sale that they were going to be having in their front yard, and she was hoping to use the money from this garage sale on their upcoming anniversary trip. So they were planning to leave for this anniversary trip just 2 days later on the 27th of January. According to Elizabeth's father, Robert, Elizabeth had already packed her bag for this trip. She was really excited, and nobody actually knew about this trip except for a couple of co-workers, friends, and family, and that was it. So holding garage sales is something that Elizabeth did every year since moving to Cedar Walk Drive, but this one was a little different because her and Sergio had only just decided to do this one the night before, just hoping to earn a little bit of extra cash before they went on their anniversary trip. So because it was thrown together so quickly, they didn't advertise it anywhere. They didn't put it online or social media or anything. The only thing they did to advertise this garage sale was the morning of the garage sale. So on that Friday, Elizabeth just kind of went out and put a few signs up around her street, and that was it. Which, I mean, in saying that, like, I don't know if it's like a little bizarre that even if it was thrown together quickly, wouldn't you, if you lived on such a quiet street that no one really drove down, wouldn't you just kind of, you know, put up a quick post on Facebook or a quick little post on social media or something to let people know what's going on? Because if you live on such a quiet street, no one's really going to see these signs anyway to know to come to the garage sale. I don't know. I feel like it's not something I would normally speculate about or think is weird or anything, but I think just considering the circumstances of the case, I'm like, analyzing everything. So like I said, Sergio left for work at 6:48 a.m. and 4 minutes later, literally 4 minutes after he drove away, left for work like any normal day, an incident occurred that was actually caught on the neighbor's security footage. And this incident occurred that would just change his whole life forever, just like that. 4 minutes after he left for work. So 4 minutes after he leaves at 6:52 a.m., the neighbor's security footage captures this black truck which comes and pulls up across the street from Elizabeth and Sergio's house. And the person driving this car leaves the car running. They exit through the driver's side door of the car, and they pretty much beeline for where Elizabeth was standing at the top of her driveway setting up her garage sale. And as this person walks up to her, you can actually hear Elizabeth on her own Ring doorbell say good morning to this person. And then this person pulls out a gun. And you can see in the security footage that obviously seeing this gun, Elizabeth takes a step back, and then they converse for about 8 to 10 seconds. Whatever they talk about is inaudible. I have no idea what they said, but there is a little bit of speculation, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. But they talk for about 8 to 10 seconds, and then the person who pulled up, who had the gun, shoots Elizabeth 3 times in the chest. Elizabeth falls back behind her table, and this person then comes up to her and shoots her in the head to make sure she's dead before they literally sprint away. They sprint back to their truck and drive away. It's really horrific, and the security footage has been released, but obviously I'm not going to include the portion of Elizabeth getting shot on my YouTube channel because it's horrible. And although it's not really all that graphic because the footage is from far away, it's kind of like fuzzy and blurry, it's really disturbing because you know what's happening, you can hear the gunshots go off, they're really loud, and it's just so confronting. It's horrible to see this woman who was so full of life, who was such a caring person, and was just, you know, setting up a garage sale so that she could save a little extra money for her upcoming anniversary trip that she was really excited to go on, and she just gets shot. Just like that. It's horrible. And 2 minutes after this happens, you can also see on the neighbor's security footage that the killer in the black truck actually drives back past the house, whether it was to confirm that Elizabeth was dead or, you know, I don't know what the reason was, but they drove past again 2 minutes after killing her. Elizabeth's neighbor, Candy Ellis, immediately called 911. I think a few neighbors might have actually called 911, but authorities arrived on the scene pretty quickly and they medevaced Elizabeth off to the Memorial Hermann Hospital, which is actually one of the hospitals she had spent time volunteering at with the 501st Legion. Unfortunately, a few hours after arriving at the hospital, Elizabeth did succumb to her injuries, but even in death, she was able to do what she loved doing the most, which is helping people. She was an organ donor, so her heart, her liver, her kidneys, and her corneas were donated, and she was able to help the people who got those organs. So obviously, Sergio was called and was notified about everything that had happened and the fact that his wife was shot, and originally he thought that this may have been like a robbery gone wrong or something, that maybe somebody wanted to steal some of the stuff from the garage sale, but none of the stuff from the garage sale was touched. There was also a $100 box that Elizabeth had at the garage sale just in case somebody came and they wanted to pay cash and they needed some change, and that was also completely untouched. So obviously it wasn't a robbery. It was pretty clear that somebody had come there with the intention just to shoot Elizabeth. Anyway, Sergio rushed to the hospital and he was actually there with Elizabeth in her last moments. He was holding her hand and telling her he loves her, which is just so incredibly sad to think about. I mean, they had their anniversary coming up, they had this exciting trip to Orlando and Universal Studios planned, and he left for work thinking she was just going to be at home hosting this garage sale to get a little extra money for their trip, but within 4 minutes of him leaving for work, his wife was shot and killed. It is just so incredibly horrific. Now, the entire community and Elizabeth and Sergio's neighbors were shocked. There were interviews with some of the neighbors and they were crying and they were just so confused as to how something like this could happen, especially to Elizabeth, who was not known to be the type of person to have any enemies or have anybody want to hurt her. And even people who didn't know Elizabeth just couldn't believe something like this happened in this quiet neighborhood while this woman was just, you know, innocently setting up for a garage sale. People in the community felt like they could be at risk because it was just such a random attack. They had no idea who could want to do something like this, and it could have been an opportune attack for all they know. So it could have just been some random person saw Elizabeth there and decided to take the opportunity to kill her, and it could really happen to anybody. A few days after the shooting, Elizabeth's friends, family, and co-workers gathered in her front yard and they hosted a vigil on her driveway to honor and mourn her, and they all brought like a toy wand or a lightsaber with them, which they lifted in her honor because obviously Elizabeth loved Harry Potter and Star Wars, and it was just a really nice way to honor her. So the investigation got underway right away and it was being handled by the Harris County Sheriff's Department, and they started off by cordoning off the area where the crime scene happened, obviously, so Elizabeth and Sergio's house and their front yard and where the garage sale was being held. And the first thing that they noticed was that there was no shell casings, which led them to believe that the attacker used a revolver because revolvers don't leave shell casings. Now, because of this, it was a really difficult case to investigate because there was no forensic evidence. Like, alongside there being no shell casings, there was also no DNA, no like hairs, fingerprints, fibers, anything. There was nothing. There were some rumors that the shooter may have handed Elizabeth an item before shooting her, but that information has not been confirmed by investigators, so I don't know if it's either not true or if it's just something investigators are withholding for their investigation at the moment. Obviously, their next step was to go and question Sergio to see if there was anybody that he knew of that may have wanted to do something like this, which he didn't. They also questioned, you know, friends and family and neighbors, and nobody could come up with any potential suspects, any reason that anybody would want to hurt Elizabeth, or Sergio for that matter. They had a really hard time identifying any potential motive related to this couple. Friends and family and pretty much everyone that knew Elizabeth and Sergio described them as just really normal. They had a great relationship, and Elizabeth especially was described as just this really kind and caring person, so nobody could think of anyone who would want to do this or any reason as to why anyone would want to harm her. They went ahead and questioned people from the neighborhood, which is when they found out about the surveillance footage and were able to put together a timeline of the attack. But the footage unfortunately was really far away, and it was also really fuzzy and blurry, so they weren't really able to make out anything about the attacker. However, they did believe that it was a woman because of the height of them in comparison to Elizabeth, and also because the way in which they walked, which seemed feminine. The shooter also appears to be wearing like a dress or a trench coat or a robe or something, which I think also makes it look more like a woman. But a lot of people believe that this may have been a costume or something to distract from the actual identity. Maybe a man dressed in a robe or a dress to disguise themselves and throw investigators off. I don't know, it's very confusing, and probably the reason that no one has been able to identify the shooter in the last 2 years. 3 years now. 3 years actually. From the footage, they also weren't able to pick up a license plate or anything like that. They couldn't even tell if there was more than one person in the truck or anything like that. The only thing that they could tell is that the car the attacker was driving was a 2013 four-door Nissan Frontier, so the Americans don't get mad at me, a Nissan Frontier. To this day, I still get comments on a video from literally 4 years ago now where I said Nissan and didn't clarify that we pronounce it Nissan here in Australia. So, the more you know. Anyway, the truck the attacker was driving also had a Pro 4X sticker on the side of the truck, and that is pretty much the only identifying feature that they were able to distinguish from the security footage. Investigators went and questioned people from the neighborhood to see if they knew who drove this car or if they knew anybody who drove a similar sort of car, and nobody had ever seen this car before. But they did see on the surveillance footage that this same exact car had actually driven through the street past Elizabeth and Sergio's house the day before the shooting as well, and then also the morning of the shooting before Sergio had left for work. So obviously just kind of scoping out the area, seeing when the best time to commit this crime was. And as I mentioned, this car also drove past again 2 minutes after the shooting took place, which led police to believe this was like a hit or something, that maybe the hitman drove back past to make sure that Elizabeth was dead. And they also believe this person acted alone because, as I mentioned, they got out of the driver's side of the car, which just, doesn't make a lot of sense if you're trying to have a quick getaway if you did have another person with you, because it would make more sense to just jump out of the passenger seat, go and commit your crime, jump back in the passenger seat, and have the person just drive off immediately. A few days after the shooting, the Houston Crime Stoppers held a press conference which Sergio spoke at, and so did Elizabeth's father, Robert, and he said, "My daughter Liz spent her life healing and spreading love and cheer to all of those around her, even total strangers." And you could just tell that both of them were just devastated.
We never imagined a life without her. We still can't, and we never will.
If anybody knows anything, to please come forward. Please come forward.
Someone within the sound of our voices can help us be sure that this murderer pays the price for their actions and never takes another innocent life.
Houston Crime Stoppers also announced a $20,000 reward at this press conference for any information leading to the arrest of Elizabeth's attacker, and this $20,000 reward was actually raised and donated by Elizabeth's friends and people from the 501st Legion. And honestly, that is pretty much most of the information on this case. I mean, there's really not a lot to go off, which is why this has been such a hard investigation. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the theories. Okay, so first of all, there is obviously the Ring doorbell footage where you can hear Elizabeth say good morning, and then you can hear them speak for 8 to 10 seconds, but it's inaudible. There has been a ton of speculation about what was said in this 8 to 10 seconds, and honestly it's kind of all over the place. Like, some people believe that they can hear a male's voice, some people believe that they can hear a female's voice. There's been speculation about whether Elizabeth knew this person or not. Like, some people think that she did know the person because she said good morning in a friendly way. But some people think she didn't know the person because she said good morning in a friendly way. Personally, I'm inclined to believe that she didn't know them because, you know, if my friend randomly showed up to my garage sale, I wouldn't be saying good morning. Like, that's so impersonal. I'd be saying, hey, how are you? Like, what are you doing here? Like, thanks for coming by. The way that she says good morning, you know, it just seems really impersonal. You're just greeting a random person that's come to look at some of your stuff. So personally, I'm definitely inclined to believe that she did not know who this person was. At least not at first anyway. So some people believe that they hear the killer say, I'm gonna kill you, and then after that they kind of explain why they're gonna kill her. And then there have also been some people who believe that they have heard Elizabeth say, no, that's not true. To be honest, I can't make out anything in that Ring doorbell audio. Like, I can hardly even make out her saying good morning, let alone any of the other stuff from the 8 to 10 seconds where they speak. And everyone seems to be divided on what they say. Like, some people think it's a man, some people think it's a woman, some people think Elizabeth says no, it's not true, some people think that the killer says I'm gonna kill you. And maybe if there was a lot of people that was saying the same thing, that they could hear the same thing on this audio, I would be more inclined to believe that. But because everyone is saying something different, everyone believes they hear something different, I'm more inclined to believe that none of it's true. I feel like if anyone could hear what they were saying in this audio, then a lot more people would be able to hear it, and a lot more people would be able to agree on what it was saying, rather than just everyone being divided on what is said. Does that make sense? I mean, unless these people are like refining the audio as well to hear what it's saying, then I just have no idea how they would even be able to make it out. Like, they're truly just guessing, I think. So personally, unless we get like some crazy technology that is like really able to refine audio recordings, I don't think that we'll ever know what was said in this 8 to 10 seconds. But I will say, people who are hearing Elizabeth saying no, that's not true, definitely ties in with our first theory, which is that Sergio did it, or he was at least partly responsible. So people have speculated that maybe either Elizabeth or Sergio were having an affair, that the killer was either Sergio's lover who found out about Elizabeth and was pissed and wanted Sergio all to herself. It could have been that Sergio and his lover planned to have Elizabeth killed so that they could be together. Or it could have been that Elizabeth was having an affair and maybe the guy that she was seeing, his wife found out and then came and killed Elizabeth in a fit of, you know, jealousy and rage. There has been speculation that if it was the wife of someone Elizabeth was having an affair with, that they came up and said, you're having an affair with my husband, and Elizabeth said, no, that's not true. Or even if it was Sergio's lover who came up and said, I'm with Sergio, you know, I'm having an affair with Sergio, and she's like, no, that's not true. Or if the killer came up and said, I'm killing you because Sergio and his lover want you killed, and she's like, no, that's not true. But like I said, I cannot hear Elizabeth saying no, that's not true from that audio. I can't hear anything at all from that audio. And not to mention, there is absolutely no evidence that either Sergio or Elizabeth were having an affair. After Elizabeth died, Sergio didn't just go and run off and get into a relationship super quickly with some new woman either. So I really don't think that's the case. By all accounts, they had a really happy marriage. There was no evidence of any financial problems or any sort of marital problems that would constitute as a motive for Sergio to have killed Elizabeth either. Even the police have come out and said that they couldn't find any evidence of either Sergio or Elizabeth having an affair, and the police had gone through both of their phones and found nothing to do with any sort of affair. And obviously, you know, police can look through deleted stuff too. So if they're saying there's no evidence, I'm inclined to believe that there is no evidence that there was no affair. Now, also within the theory that Sergio may have been responsible or partially responsible for his wife's murder is that some people think that it's really weird and really convenient that he left the house 4 minutes before she was murdered. He also sold the house really soon after the murder happened and moved away and told the press that he was concerned for his own safety, which people thought was weird, but I mean, personally, you know, it kind of makes sense to me. I wouldn't want to be in the house that my wife got murdered at. I would be concerned for my own safety if I didn't know who did it, because what if they want to murder me too? But some people thought it was his way of trying to deflect and saying, you know, I'm scared too, it couldn't be me because I'm scared that it might also happen to me, sort of thing. Some people also said that the way that he acted after the murder and the way that he acted in interviews also showed that he was like a little sketchy or guilty or something like that. I mean, personally, I don't think that as much. Like, I mean, if you look at like Chris Watts interviews, for example, like straight away, you're like, something is wrong with this guy. Like, he's definitely guilty. But I just don't get that same feeling watching Sergio's interviews. He genuinely looks devastated. Not to mention, everyone grieves with things in different ways. It would be really hard going through something like this while also being under, you know, the microscope of the media and the public. Personally, I think if he is just a grieving husband, then it really sucks to have to go through all of this, you know, not only losing your wife, but also having people accusing you of being the one to have done it. He was super cooperative with investigators throughout the whole investigation, and like I said, they went through his phone and they didn't find anything that could constitute as any sort of motive for him to have wanted Elizabeth dead. But yeah, a lot of people do believe it was Sergio, that he either killed his wife or he is at least partially responsible for her being killed. I think probably just because in this case, like, none of the theories really make sense. Like I said at the start of the video, I have literally zero clue who I think did this. I have no idea what theory I believe. I just, like, none of it makes sense to me. So I think obviously people are just going for the most reasonable explanation, which is that the husband did it, because obviously statistically a lot of the time it is the husband or the person who was closest to the victim. I mean, another thing is that when the killer drove past the morning of the murder, Sergio was still home. Like, it was before he left for work. So to me, I think that indicates that obviously Sergio is not the killer, but I think some people think that he had her killed or he's responsible for her death. Because I mean, yeah, you know, it's convenient. He did leave 4 minutes before the attack happened. Nobody really knew about this garage sale besides him, Elizabeth, and then maybe some of her family. She obviously called in sick to work, so they didn't know she was having a garage sale, because imagine calling up to work being like, hey, I'm not coming in because I'm holding a garage sale. Your boss would be like, what the But I would say that this theory is probably one of the most widely believed and one of the most widely spoken about theories. Now, obviously, another much broader theory is that this is somebody close to Elizabeth and Sergio who killed her, because, you know, like I mentioned, nobody knew about this garage sale except for Elizabeth, Sergio, her family, and a few close friends. Her co-workers didn't know about the garage sale, but they did know that she wasn't going to be at work that day. She was going to be at home. So how did this random attacker know who Elizabeth was, where she lived, that she was going to be home, that she was going to be alone at home in her front yard at 7 a.m. on the 25th of January? Like I said, they lived on a quiet street, so it doesn't make sense for this to be just some random attack, like somebody just randomly drove past, saw her, and was like, yeah, you know, perfect opportunity for me to kill somebody. This woman's alone out front of her house, let's do it. I mean, first of all, statistically, that's a very rare reason to kill someone, like just an opportune killing. But second of all, like, this is a very quiet street. People didn't just randomly drive down it. Not to mention the black truck had driven down the night before, the morning before, and 2 minutes after. So obviously they were scoping out the area. You know, very clearly was not just an opportune random killing. Now, within this theory, and also within the last theory, there has been speculation that either Sergio or someone close to Elizabeth actually hired a hitman to kill her, because obviously this was a very impersonal killing. And not only that, but obviously you can hear Elizabeth say good morning in a friendly way as if she didn't know the person, which leads me to believe it wasn't Sergio, it wasn't someone close to her, but it could have been Sergio or someone close to her that hired this person to kill Elizabeth. And not only that, but this person, as I mentioned, obviously scoped the place out the night before and the morning before the killing, which is something that a hitman would do. And they also drove by 2 minutes after the killing, which some people believe is because it was like maybe not a very professional hitman, and they drove away, they told the person who hired them like, yeah, it's done, she's dead, and then the person was like, really? Do you have proof? Is she definitely dead? And so then the hitman drove past again to maybe take a photo or to just confirm that she was dead so that they could tell their client, yeah, she's dead. And whoever was hired to kill her must have been like a friend or family or, you know, just someone really inexperienced, because I feel like a professional hitman would not need to drive by 2 minutes later. That seems dangerous for the hitman to like get caught, because people would have heard these very loud gunshots and might already be out the front of their houses. They're already calling, you know, 911. It just doesn't seem like what a professional hitman would do. So I definitely think it was like a friend or family or just somebody that they knew who was willing to kill someone for them. Now this actually ties in with our next theory, and there's been a lot of speculation that this might be a case of mistaken identity. This could also explain the "no, that's not true" comment that some people believe they heard Elizabeth saying, because, you know, this could be a really inexperienced hitman and they've gone up to her and in that 8 to 10 seconds they've said, "You are so and so," and it's the name of the person they were meant to kill, and Elizabeth is like, "No, that's not true." Or they could have gone up to her and said, "You've done this and this is why I'm killing you," and she's like, "No, that's not true. I didn't do that." You know, potentially this is like a drug dealer who has gotten one of their friends or someone in their little drug dealing gang, or hired an inexperienced hitman to go and kill someone because they owed them some money or something, and they've accidentally mistaken them for Elizabeth, and they've gone up to her and said, "You need to give me this much money because you bought this many drugs," and she's like, "No, that's not true. I didn't do that." But obviously, since the killer had already shown Elizabeth their face, they had to kill her anyway so that she couldn't ID them or she couldn't go and tell the police or anything like that. For this to be the case though, this would have to be like the most inexperienced hitman ever, because I feel like hitmen, like, you know, shadow their victims for like a week to make sure it's the right person, to know their routine so that they know when they can go and shoot them, or they have photos of them, photos of their houses, their names, like everything before they go and kill someone. They've got to have the right target. But, you know, I'm pretty sure it's happened before, so it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. So the next theory is that this had something to do with Elizabeth's work. As I mentioned, she worked for a pipeline inspection company. So some people speculated that maybe she like saw something crazy or weird going on with the pipelines, or saw something she wasn't supposed to see and so she was killed. But I don't know, like, how lucrative is the pipeline inspection company sort of business for people to be speculating stuff like this? I mean, look, this might be really far-fetched, but maybe like a drug gang was like smuggling drugs through the pipelines and she saw it and so they killed her. Anyway, so another theory might be that this is someone from the 501st Legion. Obviously, the person who killed Elizabeth, there's been a lot of speculation about what they were wearing, if they were dressed up, if they were in a dress, if they were a man or a woman. A lot of people believe that it was a female because, you know, it kind of looks like they have boobs, they're kind of short. A lot of people think they kind of look like a woman. It does look like they're wearing a dress or a long coat or something, and that they have longer hair. But, you know, there has been some speculation that they're wearing a costume to disguise themselves, that they're wearing a wig and a dress to hide the fact that they are a man. And people from the 501st Legion obviously dress up in cosplay and that sort of thing, so they would have the materials and the things that they needed to dress up to disguise themselves. I mean, they seem like a really great organization. They dress up to go and make people's days better and help kids and help them make a wish and, you know, just kind of cheer people up and brighten their day. But there are a ton of people that are involved in this organization in a ton of different places around the world, so there's sure to be one bad egg in there. But truly, I have no idea what the motivation behind someone from the 501st Legion doing this would be. Maybe they were jealous of her relationship, jealous of her life, and so they decided to kill her. I don't know. But the last theory is that this was just a random attack. It was just an opportune killing. This person drove past, saw her there, and shot her. So I do not believe this at all. The killer drove past the night before, they drove past the morning before it happened. This person knew exactly what they were doing, and as soon as they drove past and saw her alone, they got out of their car, they ran up to her, they shot her, they ran away, and they left. And then they drove past to make sure she was dead. That does not seem like an opportune killing to me. That seems like somebody who was scoping the place out to wait until she was alone to be able to come back and kill her. You know, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. But anyway, that is everything for this case. So please tell me everything you think about this case. I want to dive inside your brain and know your thoughts because I have none. I have no idea who I believe did this. Do you think it was a man? Do you think it was a woman? Who do you think did this? What theory do you believe? Tell me everything, please, because this case is so confusing to me. It truly seems like there is no motivation behind murdering this poor woman. She seemed like such a wonderful person who just wanted to help people and cheer people up. She seemed like such a nice, caring person. So why would anyone want to kill her? I can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.